Are you tired of making mediocre pizzas with dried out, splotchy crust and blown out edges?
Are you tired of paper-thin center volume that drops and spills the toppings off of your pizza?
Oh no! Introducing Slapping Dough the Papa John's Way. When you slap dough the Papa John's way, you can say goodbye to that paper-thin center and splotchy crust and say hello to smooth golden brown crust with great center volume that your customers are gonna love. So long, pesky blowouts. You'll be making pizzas your customers can't get enough of. But wait, there's more. When you slap dough the Papa John's way, you'll also get better pizza scores, happier customers, more repeat business, and more sales. Stay tuned to find out how you can start slapping dough the Papa John's way, and you'll be making better pizzas in no time.
Andy Vincent here, and today we're going to talk about slapping dough the Papa John's way. We're going to talk about edge lock, edge stretch, and docking your dough the right way so you can make a superior Papa John's pizza that your customers are going to love. So let's get started. First, we're going to talk about edge lock. You got to get two things done when you're creating that edge lock. One, you got to get it to a half an inch. Two, you got to roll that edge back. So let's first talk about that roll back. Now, why do you need to roll that edge back? Because we need this crust to bake up and be beautiful and golden brown and smooth. The only way we're going to make that happen is if we use the bottom of the dough ball where all the good dough is. If I don't roll that edge back when we're creating that edge lock, we're going to get that light splotchy color. We don't want that. We want a nice golden brown crust. So what we've got to do when we're creating this edge lock is we got to roll that edge back. That gets us all that bottom dough right here. That bottom dough is what we want. That's going to bake up delicious looking golden brown smooth crust, and that's going to make your pizza look beautiful. So let's talk about two common mistakes I see out there during the edge lock procedure. We got crimping and scrunching. Let's talk about it. When you're crimping your edge, you can create a really good half-inch border like you want, but you're not going to get any rollback. Let's look at what it looks like. So crimpers like to just go real fast like this. And again, I can make a really good half-inch border like I want, but I'm not going to get any rollback. And remember, when I don't get rollback, I'm going to get light, splotchy crust with freckles. And that's not the crust we want. We want that beautiful golden brown crust. And we're only going to get that if we roll those edges back. We're going to talk about scrunching. When you're scrunching, you've got the same problem as when you're crimping. You're not getting any rollback. And remember, we've got to have that rollback if we want those beautiful golden brown edges. So let's dig into it. When you're scrunching, you're moving your hands way too much like this. You're scrunching under that dough. Now it makes it look like you're getting some rollback because your hands are going under the edge, but you're not getting any rollback. You're just digging a ditch under that edge. Now that we've talked about the wrong ways to do it, let's talk about the Papa way. First, we're going to talk about technique and finger placement. So what I want you to do is get your hands nice and flat like this. Pick up your pointer fingers and touch your middle fingers together. And then what I need you to do is bring all your fingers in together like this and pop those knuckles. That's how you're going to achieve that really good rollback. So to achieve that perfect rollback, here's how we're going to do it. Remember that technique we just taught you? We got to get those hands placed just right. And you got to come in on the dough parallel with the dough. You're basically holding the dough ball right here with this part of your hand. You're going to really grab a hold of it again with this part of your hand. You can't come in too deep because you're just going to crimp that edge. Remember, we need to force that dough right around your fingertips, and here's how we're going to do it. Remember that technique? We're going to mash down with this part of our hand, and then we're going to pull it back. See that dough coming around? Let's look at it again. Pull it back. Remember, I got to get it a half an inch. Here it is again. We're pulling it back. We're rolling it back. We're rolling it back. Now that is good rollback. Remember I told you you got to get two things right when you edge lock that dough. You got to get the rollback, but you got to get that half an inch. That half an inch is so important. It's so important because this is crust and this is pizza. If you get this too big, you've got too much crust. And if you've got too much crust, you don't have enough center volume. And we don't want that thin center either. Now take a look at these two pizzas. Look at that pizza on the left. Now that's a pizza with proper rollback. Look at those smooth golden borders. Now that is a beautiful pizza. That is a Papa John's pizza. This pizza on the right, not so much. Look at the light crust color. Look at those splotchy edges. That's not what we want. That's a dead giveaway that there was no rollback. When you see pizzas like that coming out of your oven, you've got to work on your rollback. Edge stretch. The next step in the process has a profound impact on the quality of your pizza. You got two primary objectives during your edge stretch. You got to define that border and you got to cut it down into 1/4 look at this slice. Look at that paper thin center volume. That's the result of improper edge stretch. Now look at this one. That's what we're looking for. When you stretch your edges correctly, you get great consistent center volume and a delicious pizza. Look at them side by side. Which one would you rather eat? We got two fatal flaws to look out for during your edge stretch. You don't want to dig and you don't want to swim. Let's break them down and talk about how they impact your product quality. First, let's talk about digging. Now, when you're digging under your border. And when you dig under your border, you're not defining it, you're not making it smaller like you need to, and you're thinning out your middle. Remember, the whole purpose of this step is to define that border to make it 1/4 of an inch, all without thinning out your middle. Swimming. Let's talk about swimming. Now, we call it swimming because you're using a swimming motion to stretch your dough instead of the proper edge stretch technique. Take a look at this. Now, when we're swimming, you can see me making the pizza really big. I'm thinning out my middle, and again, my border is not getting any smaller. And remember, the whole point of this step is to make my border smaller without thinning out the middle. So what's so important about the border size anyway? Why is it so important that we got to get it to 1/4 of an inch? Well, let me tell you, when you get your border to a consistent 1/4 inch, you're going to get fewer blowouts. Now, what I don't want you to do is to think of this as your crust. This isn't your crust. Your crust is created over there at the sauce station. When you leave a 1-inch sauce border, you're going to get a 1-inch crust. What you're doing here is defining the border. And when you define the border and you make it 1/4 of an inch, you're going to dramatically reduce your blowouts. So let's talk about the right way to do this. Now remember, you got two goals here. You got to define that border and you got to cut it down into 1/4 of an inch. Now here's how we're going to do it. We're going to lay our hands down flat in the dough. There can't be any part of your hand that's cupped or up. I'm talking flat inside the dough. And look at these 3 fingertips here and these 3 fingertips here. That's what we're using. We're working these right fingertips as they pull against my stationary left fingertips. You see that? Now let me stop right here in the middle, and here's what we got. We got this right hand creating the definition that we're looking for. Look, take a look at it again. Now we're doing this on the top side, and then we're going to flip it over and do this exact same thing on the bottom side. Look at that definition. Look at that left hand stationary. Now we're not rubbing across the dough. This is edge stretching, not edge rubbing. We are just stretching that dough against that left stationary hand, trying to define that border. And again, we got to get it to 1/4 of an inch, and here it is. Now when we're finished with this process, here's what we got. We got a nice consistent 1/4 inch border and plenty of center volume. Now that's going to be a great pizza. Docking. Now you'd be surprised how big of an impact docking your pizza has on your product quality. So you got 2 goals when you're docking this pizza. You got to get it 8 to 10 times, and you got to go center out. So why do we only want to dock it 8 to 10 times? Simple. We're making a pizza, not a cheese stick. We want to dock this as little as possible so we can get a really nice, consistent rise in the oven. Plus, we don't want to kill the definition of our edge. So why is it so important to dock it center out? Well, let me tell you, nothing's going to kill your border definition faster than docking this thing up and down your border. That's why we got to dock it center out. That allows us to dock it 8 to 10 times while maintaining this border definition. Again, if we dock it up and down the border like this, we lose all of our definition and we flatten this border out, and we get an inconsistent rise, and it's full of these ugly holes. So let's see that all together. Here we go. Remember your 2 goals during your edge lock. We need a 1/2 inch border, and we got to roll those borders back from the bottom. Remember, that roll back gets you that golden brown smooth color you're looking for. Next is the edge stretch. Remember to keep those hands flat, work the edges, cut that border into a 1/4 inch. That's going to help prevent those blowouts that we don't like. You see there, we're keeping our hands flat. We're working the right hand against that stationary left hand. We do it one time, we flip it over, we do it again. Pulling out the definition of that border we want. We want a 1/4 inch border, small motions, flat, relaxed hands, good center volume. Remember, we want a good, consistent center volume. Right here's what we want. When we finish up, we're going to dock it from the center out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. That gets us a great Papa John's pizza. So thanks for tuning in and learning how to slap dough the Papa John's way. Remember, constant improvement is one of our core values. So get out there, practice this technique, perfect it, and you're going to love the way your pizzas look. More importantly, your customers will.